So I just watched the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, and what did I think? I enjoyed it. I know, hot take, very hot take, but genuinely, I enjoyed my time with the movie, but objectively, yeah, this movie is nowhere near flawless, and I can think of a few big examples, mainly in the spoiler territory. Yeah, this video is gonna have a lot of spoilers. I'm gonna be relentless here, so please watch the movie. It's on Peacock, so, you know, it's right there, and you can see it in theaters. It's pretty good. I think you could get a kick out of it if you're a FNAF fan. This is my go-ahead, you know, just watch it now. So the movie stars Mike Schmidt, a guy. He works as a security guard for a mall until he just beats the ever-loving crap out of a dude because he thought he kidnapped a child. But, nope, it was just his dad. I mean, like, if you're living in the FNAF world, you know, every child might as well just be kidnapped. So his manager, Steve Ruckland, who I'm just gonna be calling Matthew Lillard until, like, the very ending of this video, tells him to get a job at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza for 5 nights. 5 nights at Freddy's, 5 nights at Freddy's. However, Mike needs to look out for his younger sister, Abby, because her aunt wants to basically just steal her. Because Mike Schmidt is a terrible brother / father. And that's the basic setup. On the way, he'll meet Vanessa from Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, the latest game. And the 4 main dudes, Freddy, Foxy, Chica, and Bonnie. Let me just go into what I immediately want to talk about. The set design and everything is perfect. Of course, we got the FNAF 1 location itself, which is just beautiful. Like, genuinely, they adapted everything perfectly. And of course, I do not need to talk about how good the animatronics are. Both of them, Jim Henson's workshop. Yes, that Jim Henson's workshop. These animatronics are beautiful and look like they were lifted straight from the games. It's like the very first video game adaptation I can think of, where all the designs are just virtually unchanged. I guess you could make a case for like Ratchet and Clank, but don't lie to me and say they didn't try to cutify their characters. But yeah, back on topic, these look so good. Sometimes I genuinely couldn't believe what I was seeing. In fact, most of the effects really bring me back to like those 90s horror movies where everything was like there and real. Like when they needed to get like 5 billion puppeteers to puppeteer like a freaking piranha plant. Okay, time to get into literally everything else. I'm not gonna lie, the tone of the movie was very disappointing. Now, I know with the fanbase today, there was no way in hell they were ever gonna go for an R rating. But, you know, they could have still done way more than what they did. I mean, just look at Krampus. Like, would you believe me if I told you that this horror movie only has 5 kills? And most of them were done in one single scene?
Was that the bite?
Now, granted, that one single scene is really freaking good, but why is that the only scene where people die? And before you ask what about the other 2, one of them was at the very beginning of the movie, again, very good scene, and the other one, oh, we're gonna get to the other one. I guess what I can say is that the very few kills are actually pretty good. Like, especially the scene where they get most of the kills done. I genuinely love that scene. It's basically that scene that every horror movie has where, like, one or a few more people just die. And it's a really good scene. All the deaths are pretty well executed. So why is this the only scene that people actually die in? Now, you may be saying, dude, are you really wishing that more people died? Yes, that is exactly what I'm wishing for. And the overall tone of the movie isn't really that great. Okay, so the beginning, it feels like an actual horror movie, you know? You know, we got the main character, we got the setup for the night, and it even adapts the game pretty well. Like, with the first night having nothing happen, that is, like, deadly accurate. And it also sets up the whole dead brother stuff. Basically, Mike saw his brother get kidnapped and he never stopped dreaming about it. You know, it introduced that, and it's really interesting. Now, what if I told you that immediately after the scene where all of them die, that's basically the point where the tone shifts. So basically, one of the devious dudes were Abby's babysitter, you know? So Mike has to bring her to Freddy Fazbear's. Now, what I initially expected was a healthy dose of child murder, but that's not what happens at all. Instead, the robots become friends with her, and then it just completely shifts to a comedy. Sure, comedy with a bit of tension in there, but like still, it just turns into a complete comedy. The next night, Vanessa's there and they build a fort in a comedic sequence with rock music in the background. They even do that Omega cliche like trope where Bonnie, like, you know, is happy, he falls over, they ask if he's okay, and it zooms in on his thumb giving a thumbs up. These are supposed to be the bad guys of the movie? I'm really mixed on this scene because on one hand, it's a complete tone killer. On the other hand, the scene is really freaking charming. Sure, the tone immediately goes back to horror after that because it's revealed that the only reason the animatronics did all that was because it was to put Mike in a false sense of security, so then they can just absolutely just go to town on him. Because what they really want is for Abby to become one of them, to become an animatronic, and they nearly do that. They nearly freaking spring lock her. What I'm saying is that the tone is very inconsistent. Because I'm gonna be honest, aside from that one scene, this movie does take itself pretty seriously. Of course, Matt Pett and Corey Kinton cameos aside. But yeah, most of this movie tends to take itself very seriously, so when we have freaking this, it's really weird. And I have to stress this enough, it is by no ways a bad scene. It's just really tonally clashing with the rest of the movie. Goodness, I gotta make sure I like this movie because I actually do really like this movie. I don't know, it's just one of those movies where I can see the flaws. I can see why people can call it bad. Like, that thing it, as a FNAF fan, I really like this movie. But of course, before I can get to praising it again, I need to talk about the finale, the third act, because the third act is where my thoughts linger the most. Because it could have been done so much better, and it just isn't. So, you know, if you watch the rest of this video so far, this is where I get real relentless with spoilers. So, let's get to it. So I'm just gonna get into it. The William Afton name drop is just kind of lame in retrospect. And what I mean by that is that the scene itself is well executed, but if you're a casual viewer viewing the FNAF for the first time through this movie, his name could have been exactly the same and nothing would have changed. In the context of this movie, Matthew Lillard being William Afton means basically nothing. He's just Matthew Lillard, but a little more murderous this time. Now, what I think they should have done, and this is going to be real different from the actual games here, but what if from the beginning, we already knew the man in the spring Bonnie suit was named William Afton, like from the beginning? And part of the mystery of this film is he still around? And two, where is he? And then, at the eventual reveal, change the name drop so that Matthew Lillard says something like, I'm William Afton, or something like that. And also, make it so that he has way more screen time, because in the actual movie, Matthew Lillard only appears at the very beginning, at the very end, and is not even mentioned throughout the rest of the movie. And it could have been so much easier, too! In the very beginning of the movie, he's also established as the phone guy. So why not every single night, he calls up on him, wondering how he's doing, and he gets more and more surprised that he's surviving the nights. So with these very simple changes, the William Afton name drop is cool for both FNAF fans and casual audiences. B, he gets infinitely more screen time. And C, it brings in another juicy reference to the games. And you know how much I like references in my video game movies. Now, with this all being said, I'm not saying that the Springtrap scene is bad. No, by all means, the Springtrap scene is absolutely goated. It's the absolute perfect way to end the movie. So I'm not a big fan of the I always come back drop. It feels like in universe he's saying it to get a aha, I understand that, I know what that is reaction. I feel like it could have been easily more organic if Mike Schmidt says something like, finally you're gonna die, and then William Afton said, no, I always come back. Or, you know, something like that. I don't know, something to make it much more believable. Because in a movie, he's literally just dying, says I always come back, completely unprompted, and then just, like, continues dying. But yeah, aside from all that, this scene is really freaking good. I actually really like it. And that's sort of a metaphor for this whole movie, huh? Objectively, I think that this movie isn't the greatest movie around. It's definitely an entry-level horror movie, Though, part of me struggles to even say that. I mean, I literally watched Pet Cemetery the day before I watched FNAF, and that movie is infinitely scarier. But yeah, I don't know. I know this movie isn't, like, good, but I still love it. All the references and the cameos and the fact that the freaking Living Tombstone FNAF theme plays in the background of the credits just shows to me that this movie was made with love and care put into it. And once again, the prop design and the animatronics are simply perfect. I would have never had this movie looking any other way. I don't know, it was definitely one of those movies where I can see the flaws in it. I know it's bad, but it's something about the watch experience is just endlessly enjoyable to me. And I'm not gonna lie one bit when I say the whole freaking flashback dream sequences weren't extremely intriguing to me. But yeah, that's the review. This movie is extremely enjoyable, but flawed. If there's one thing I have to say, is that I know for a fact the second movie is gonna be better. Scott Cawthon already showed a lot of promise with this movie. So if he simply hones in his crafts and adds in more actually scary parts, then the second movie could be considered a goated masterpiece.